For step 2 of the closing procedures for the SLO process, you will enter the body of evidence you use to determine the end of year rating in the EOI rubric descriptors. Please note, please make sure that you add the grading system used to determine the tiering for each piece of evidence. This will be shown later on in this video. You must list the 5 pieces of evidence that you use to determine the final end of year rating. Remember that the same 5 pieces of evidence will be used to rate all students in the SLO portfolio. You may use pieces of evidence from your progress monitoring data. We highly suggest that you use 1 piece of evidence from the third 6 weeks, 2 pieces of evidence from the fourth 6 weeks, and 2 pieces of evidence from the fifth 6 weeks to complete your data collection, totaling the 5 pieces of evidence. You can also opt to use new pieces of evidence collected after the fifth 6 weeks has been rated, but this is not required due to time and calendar constraints. Remembering that the fifth 6 weeks ends on April 15th, and this final step is due April 22nd.
When you're ready to enter the end-of-year milestone data, log into Eduphoria, open Strive, go to the Student Learning Objectives section, and click on your foundational skill or goal statement to open the SLO. When the SLO has loaded completely, scroll down to the Portfolio Snapshot section and click on the link to take you to the portfolio. Once the portfolio opens, you will see all of your milestones, including the end of year rating milestone that you created in the previous step. Since you'll be allowed to use progress monitoring data from the previous 6 weeks checkpoints, you can copy that data into the end of year milestone. If, for example, you want to use data from the third 6 weeks, click on the 3 dots beside the title that says third 6 weeks or whatever you named it, and click on the edit button. I'm going to confirm that I want to edit that, and I'll be able to see the data that was used in that third 6 weeks milestone. If I want to copy these first 2 pieces of evidence that were used here, I'm going to highlight them and copy. I can copy by right-clicking and selecting copy from the drop-down list, or I can use Control-C on my keyboard to copy that information. I want to start with the well below typical label and copy the items of evidence that I want to include in my end of year. And then I'm going to close by clicking this Done button. Now I will go to the end of year rating milestone. I'm going to click on the 3 dots and choose Edit. And I'm going to go to the well below label for the end of the year rating, and I'm going to paste in those pieces of evidence that I copied. I can right click and select Paste, or I can use Control-V on my keyboard to paste those in. When I'm done, I'm going to click my Done button here. Now, you'll notice I only have 2 different pieces of evidence here, and I need to have 5 for my body of evidence. So I can go back and select other items from other milestones during the year. I'm going to click on my Done button, and this time I'm going to go into the fourth 6 weeks. For just as an example, I'm going to edit my fourth 6 weeks, and I'm going to see some additional pieces of evidence that I might want to use in that end of year. I can copy 1 piece of evidence from this 6 weeks just by highlighting that single piece, or I could copy 2 pieces of evidence, or I could copy all 3 pieces of evidence from this 6 weeks, whatever I need to include in my end of year. Again, I'm going to right click and copy or Control-C on the keyboard, and when I'm done, I'll click my Done button. I'm going to go back to the end of the year rating milestone, go back to Edit, and in my well below spot, I'm going to add a semicolon there, and then I'm going to right click and paste, or use my keyboard commands Control V to paste, either one. I want to continue copying pieces of evidence from my checkpoints, my milestones throughout the year, until I have at least the required 5 pieces of evidence that I need to have. When you have your 5 pieces of evidence that are required, you're going to copy this and paste it into the other levels. Again, I can use my Control C on the keyboard or right click and copy paste, and then I'm going to paste it in each one of these boxes so that it will be in each descriptor. Once the evidence is pasted in at all levels, you need to go back and edit the rating scale to reflect each level correctly. For example, in the first item, the rating scale for well below typical is 0 to 15 points. The rating scale for below typical should be 15 to 30. So I need to edit that to be 15 to 30 for below typical, and then I would need to make it 30 to 45 for typical, and so on. I would need to do this to all of the pieces of evidence for all of the levels. So once I've done the science fair data and made those ratings correct for all levels, I would need to come in and do this rubric rating. That's what it is for well below. I would need to make it 1 to 2 for below, 2 to 3 for typical. I would need to make my ratings accurate for each of the different levels and make sure that all of those are correct. Once that is complete, you click your Done button, and now you're ready for step 3.